The champagne glass catches the overhead light as she raises it. Condensation drips down the crystal stem onto manicured fingers adorned with a diamond ring worth more than most people's homes. Regina Okonkwo-Price doesn't look at the man beside her. She doesn't need to. She's already decided what he is. Nobody. The child between them fidgets with her seatbelt, tiny fingers struggling with the metal clasp. Her father reaches over, his calloused hands working the buckle with practiced patience. He adjusts the strap across her denim overalls, pulls it snug but not too tight. "There you go, baby girl," Marcus Thibodeau whispers. His voice is warm honey poured over gravel. Exhaustion lives in the lines around his eyes, but when he looks at his daughter Zuri, something soft breaks through. Regina sips her champagne, watches from her peripheral vision. The man's shirt is wrinkled at the collar. Blue cotton, nothing designer. His hair needs cutting, dark curls grown wild. There's a stain near his left cuff that might be coffee, might be something else entirely. She shifts in her seat, angling her body away from them. The captain's voice crackles through the speakers, standard announcements about altitude and weather patterns. Nobody listens. They never do. Marcus pulls a coloring book from his worn backpack. The spine is cracked, pages dog-eared and loved. Zuri's face illuminates as she accepts it, her braids swinging as she bounces in her seat. "Daddy, can I use the purple first?" "You can use whatever color you want, Zuzu." Regina's jaw tightens. The child's voice carries. It pierces through the carefully curated silence of first class, disrupting the ambient hum of privilege and entitlement. What would you do if someone's satisfying life judged you based on your appearance? Would you speak up or stay silent? Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to know. Don't just sit back, tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. The flight attendant approaches with a practiced smile. She leans toward Regina first, naturally, instinctively drawn to the obvious wealth. "Ms. Okonkwo-Price, can I refresh your drink?" "Perrier. No ice." Regina doesn't look up from her phone. "And perhaps you could find somewhere else for?" She gestures vaguely toward Marcus and Zuri. This situation. Marcus's hand stills on his daughter's shoulder. The flight attendant's smile falters. "Ma'am, all seats in first class are—" "I know what I paid for this ticket." Regina's voice drops to something cold. "I didn't pay to sit next to a daycare." Zuri's crayon stops moving. She looks up at her father with those wide brown eyes that see everything, understand more than any 10-year-old should. Marcus says nothing. He simply returns to watching his daughter color, his hands steady, his expression unreadable. But in the cockpit, something has gone terribly wrong. Regina Okonkwo-Price built an empire on the backs of people who underestimated her. 37 years old. CEO of Axiom Dynamics. 400 million in quarterly revenue. She learned early that sentiment was weakness, and weakness was death in the boardroom. So when she looks at the man in the blue cotton shirt, she sees what she's trained herself to see. Liability. Burden. A man who couldn't afford the seat he's sitting in, probably upgraded through some charity program or frequent flyer miles accumulated over years of mediocre business travel. She doesn't see the scar beneath his collar. She doesn't notice how his eyes sweep the cabin every 47 seconds, cataloging exits, counting passengers, assessing threats. Old habits. "Excuse me." Regina's voice cuts through the recycled air. "I asked for Perrier. This has ice." The flight attendant apologizes, retreats to fix the error. Marcus watches the interaction without watching. His daughter's purple crayon moves in careful circles, filling in a butterfly's wing. "Daddy, what's Perrier?" "Fancy water, baby." "Why is it fancy?" "Because somebody decided to charge more for it." Zuri considers this with the gravity of a philosopher. "That's silly. Most things are, Zuzu." Regina's phone buzzes. She reads the message and something flickers across her face. Gone before it can be named. Her thumb hovers over the screen, then she sets the phone face down on her armrest. You know, she says, not quite turning toward Marcus, there's an economy section for a reason. Marcus doesn't respond. I'm talking to you. I know. The simplicity of it throws her off balance. No defensiveness. No apology. No attempt to explain or justify. Just acknowledgement, plain as water. Then perhaps you could acknowledge that some of us have actual business to conduct on this flight, and we don't need the distraction of. Daddy. Zuri tugs his sleeve. She seems really angry. Some people carry heavy things inside them, baby. Makes them sharp around the edges. Regina's champagne glass meets the armrest with more force than intended. Excuse me? Before Marcus can respond, a sound cuts through the cabin. Different from engine noise. Wrong. The plane shudders. Zuri's crayons scatter across the floor. And somewhere behind the cockpit door, a red light begins to flash. The oxygen masks don't drop. Not yet. But the passengers feel it anyway. That primal recognition of wrongness that lives in human bones, inherited from ancestors who survived by trusting their instincts. Regina's hand grips her armrest. Her knuckles pale beneath her designer rings. Marcus moves without thinking. One arm wraps around Zuri, pulling her close. His other hand checks her seatbelt again, then his own. His breathing remains steady, measured, controlled. Daddy. I'm right here. The plane feels sick. I know, baby. But planes are tougher than they feel. The intercom crackles. Static first, then the captain's voice. Trying to sound calm but missing the mark by several degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some unexpected technical difficulties. Please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened. Murmurs ripple through the cabin. A businessman across the aisle pulls up a news app, searches for anything about their flight. A woman 3 rows back starts praying in Spanish, her rosary beads clicking together like tiny bones. Regina's phone slips from her hand. She doesn't notice. The flight attendants move through the cabin with expressions carefully arranged to convey confidence they clearly don't feel. They check seatbelts. They offer water that nobody wants. They avoid eye contact because eye contact means questions, and questions require answers they don't have. Mommy always said planes are the safest way to travel, Zuri whispers. Marcus's chest tightens at the mention of his late wife. 3 years gone, and still the grief ambushes him in moments like this. He pushes it down. Later. He can feel later. Your mama was right about most things. She was right about you too. What did she say about me? Zuri looks up at him with those eyes that hold the whole universe. That you save people. That's what you do. The intercom crackles again. This time, the captain's voice holds something different. Something that makes every passenger freeze in their seats. Something that makes Regina Okonkwo-Price forget, for the first time in years, how much money sits in her bank account. Pure, unfiltered fear. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the urgency of this announcement. We need to ask, is there anyone on board with fighter pilot experience? If so, please identify yourself to the cabin crew immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Silence falls like a hammer. Every eye searches the cabin. And Marcus Thibodeau slowly releases his daughter's hand. The words hang in the recycled air. Fighter pilot. The passengers exchange glances loaded with questions nobody wants to answer. Who flies fighter jets and ends up in seat 14B with a 10-year-old and a coloring book? Regina's mind races through her mental Rolodex of contacts, connections, resources. None of them can help her at 37,000 feet with an engine failing and a pilot panicking. Fighter pilot, she mutters. Who even? Movement beside her. Marcus unbuckles his seatbelt. Regina watches, confusion creasing her forehead, as the man she dismissed as nobody rises from his seat. His movements are deliberate, economical. No wasted energy. Daddy. Zuri's voice wavers. Marcus kneels in the aisle, bringing himself to her eye level. He cups her face in his hands, those same calloused hands that buckled her seatbelt minutes ago. Listen to me, Zuzu. Daddy needs to go help some people for a little while. I need you to stay in your seat and keep coloring, okay? Can you do that for me? Are you going to fly the plane? I'm going to try. Like before? Like when you flew the fast jets? A smile breaks across his face, small but real. Just like before. Regina's champagne sits forgotten, growing warm. Her mouth opens, but no words emerge. The man she mocked. The father she dismissed as a burden. The nobody in the wrinkled blue shirt. Fighter pilot. A flight attendant rushes toward them, her composure cracking at the edges. Sir, are you? Captain Marcus Thibodeau. United States Air Force, retired. F-22 Raptor Squadron Commander. 12 years active duty. The words flow out like water from a dam. Take me to the cockpit. Now. The flight attendant's legs nearly buckle with relief. Yes, sir. Right away. Marcus stands, straightens his wrinkled collar. For a moment, his eyes meet Regina's. No triumph in his gaze. No vindication. Just acknowledgement. Ma'am. He nods once. Watch my daughter. It isn't a request. Regina nods before she realizes she's nodding. Her head moves of its own accord, responding to something in his voice that her body recognizes even if her mind cannot name it. Authority. The kind that doesn't need a corner office or a quarterly report. The kind that's forged in fire and tested at altitudes where mistakes mean death. Marcus moves toward the cockpit. The passengers watch in stunned silence. Zuri picks up her purple crayon and returns to her butterfly. And Regina Okonkwo-Price, for the first time in her carefully controlled life, feels something crack open inside her chest. The cockpit door swings open. What waits inside will test everything Marcus Thibodeau left behind. The cockpit smells like sweat and burning electronics. Two pilots sit at the controls, their faces illuminated by warning lights that paint everything crimson. The captain, a woman named Patricia Chen, doesn't turn around when the door opens. She's too focused on keeping the aircraft from becoming a coffin. Thank God. The co-pilot's voice breaks. Maybe 30. His hands tremble on the throttle. Tell me you're the fighter pilot. Marcus steps inside, and the door seals behind him. His eyes move across the instrument panel with the efficiency of a man reading a familiar language. Altitude dropping. Engine 2 failing. Hydraulics compromised. But not impossible. Talk to me, Marcus says. What happened? Captain Chen finally looks back. Her eyes are red-rimmed but steady. Birds strike about 4 minutes ago. Took out the right engine. We can fly on one, but our hydraulics are bleeding out. I've got maybe 60% control of the flight surfaces. What about the backup systems? That's the thing. The co-pilot swallows hard. The bird didn't just hit the engine. Something punctured the fuselage near the auxiliary hydraulic line. We're losing fluid faster than we should be. Marcus closes his eyes. For a moment, he's not here. He's back in the cockpit of an F-22 over the mountains of Afghanistan, enemy fire lighting up his tail, fuel line severed, nothing but training and instinct between him and the ground racing up to meet him. He survived it. He'll survive this. You've got 112 passengers back there, Captain Chen says. Plus crew. Plus a little girl who I'm guessing is yours. She is. Then you have every reason in the world to help me land this bird. Marcus opens his eyes. Steps forward. His hand rests on the back of the captain's seat as he studies the instruments with fresh intensity. The Denver airport. How far? 43 minutes at current speed. But if we lose more hydraulic pressure, we won't make Denver. Marcus finishes her thought. What's closer? The co-pilot pulls up a map on the navigation screen. His fingers still shake, but less than before. Something about Marcus's presence steadies him. There's a regional strip about 18 minutes out. Used to be military. Runways long enough, but there's no emergency equipment stationed there. What about Grand Junction? They've got a proper airport. 26 minutes. Tower says they can have fire crews ready in 15. Marcus does the math. 26 minutes. Hydraulic fluid depleting. Control surfaces growing stiffer by the second. If they lose steering before they reach Grand Junction, they'll have a choice between crashing into a mountain or praying for a miracle. Can this plane glide? Captain Chen's jaw tightens. If we lose both engines? Maybe. It's a 737, not a glider. We'd need somewhere flat, somewhere long. The regional strip. The old military one. What's the runway surface? Concrete. 12,000 feet. Marcus nods slowly. 12,000 feet. F-22s landed on less. Here's what we're going to do. His voice shifts. Something underneath emerges. The commander who led squadrons through impossible missions. The pilot who brought damaged aircraft home when everyone else said to eject. We're going to divert to that regional strip. You're going to maintain altitude as long as possible while I monitor these hydraulic levels. When we start our descent, I'll talk you through a manual approach. No autopilot. No automation. Just hands on the yoke and eyes on the horizon. Captain Chin stares at him. You've done this before. 3 times. Landed a damaged aircraft with failing hydraulics? Landed damaged aircraft with no hydraulics. Twice in combat zones, once in a sandstorm. The co-pilot exhales a breath he didn't know he was holding. What's your name? Marcus asks him. Kevin. Kevin Ross. Kevin, I need you to handle communications. Tell Grand Junction we're diverting. Tell them why. And tell them to send those fire crews to the regional strip instead. Yes, sir. Marcus turns to Captain Chin. Patricia, you've got good hands. I watched the way you corrected when that first shutter hit. Trust those hands. They know what to do. Something shifts in her expression. The fear doesn't disappear, but it steps aside. Makes room for something else. Determination. 112 passengers, she repeats. And my daughter. Then let's bring them home. Marcus takes position behind her, his eyes locked on the instrument panel, his mind already running calculations that have no room for failure. 16 minutes to the regional strip. Hydraulic pressure dropping. One chance to get this right. And back in the cabin, a little girl in denim overalls colors a butterfly purple while a billionaire CEO watches the cockpit door and waits for a man she dismissed as worthless to save her life. What do you think Regina is feeling right now? Has your judgment of someone ever been completely wrong? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapters. The landing is coming, and not everyone handles it the way you'd expect. The hydraulic pressure gauge drops another 2%. Marcus watches the needle fall like a condemned man watching the clock tick toward midnight. 14 minutes to the regional airstrip. At this rate, they'll have maybe 6% hydraulic function left when they touch down. 6% means almost no braking power. 6% means steering the aircraft with prayers and physics. We're losing it faster than I calculated, Captain Chin mutters. Her hands grip the yoke with white-knuckled intensity. The puncture must be worse than we thought. Marcus runs his palm across his jaw. Thinking. Always thinking. In the F-22, decisions happened in fractions of seconds. This is different. Slower. But the stakes remain identical. Life or death. Kevin. Marcus turns to the co-pilot. Pull up the emergency procedures for manual gear deployment. If our hydraulics fail completely, we're going to need to drop the landing gear using the backup system. Kevin's fingers fly across the console. Got it? There's a manual release lever beneath the center pedestal. But don't touch it until I say. The plane shudders again. A passenger screams somewhere in the cabin. The sound travels through the cockpit door, muffled but unmistakable. Terror has a frequency that penetrates walls. Marcus closes his eyes for 3 seconds. When he opens them, his daughter's face fills his mind. Zuri with her purple crayon. Zuri with her mother's eyes. Zuri who lost one parent already and cannot lose another. Patricia, I need you to reduce our airspeed gradually. We're burning through hydraulic fluid faster at higher speeds. The pumps are working overtime. If I slow down too much, we'll stall. I know the threshold. Trust me. Captain Chin eases back on the throttle. The airspeed indicator drops from 340 knots to 320. The hydraulic pressure stabilizes. Barely. It's holding, Kevin breathes. For now. Marcus studies the terrain map on the navigation screen. Mountains on 3 sides. A valley cutting through the center. The regional airstrip sits at the valley's eastern edge, a thin gray line against the brown and green landscape. We're going to approach from the west, Marcus announces. Use the valley as our glide path. If we lose engine power before touchdown, the downward slope will give us extra distance. That's not standard procedure, Captain Chin says. Standard procedure assumes functioning aircraft. We don't have that luxury. She nods slowly. The argument dies before it forms. 11 minutes, Kevin announces. His voice has steadied. Something about having a plan, even a desperate one, creates calm. Marcus moves to the cockpit door. Opens it just enough to see into the cabin. The passengers sit frozen in their seats, faces painted with fear and uncertainty. Flight attendants move between rows, checking seatbelts, offering hollow reassurances. And there, in seat 14B, his daughter colors. Purple butterfly wings taking shape on paper. Beside her, Regina Okonkwo-Price sits motionless. Her champagne glass lies forgotten on the floor, rolled beneath the seat in front of her. Her eyes are fixed on the cockpit door. On him. For a moment, their gazes lock. Marcus sees something in her expression he didn't expect. Not arrogance. Not judgment. But something else underneath. Something that looks almost like recognition. He nods once and closes the door. 9 minutes to landing. The hydraulic gauge drops another %. And somewhere in the valley below, an empty runway waits for an aircraft that may not have enough power to stop. Regina cannot breathe. The air in the cabin feels thick, heavy, wrong. Her lungs work overtime, pulling oxygen that doesn't seem to satisfy. This is what panic feels like, she realizes. This is what happens when money becomes meaningless. Her empire means nothing at 30,000 feet with failing hydraulics. Her quarterly reports won't cushion the impact if this plane hits the ground wrong. She looks at the child beside her. The man called her Zuri. Such a beautiful name for such a small person. The girl continues coloring, her focus absolute, her faith unshakable. Aren't you scared? Regina hears herself ask. Zuri looks up. Those brown eyes hold depths that shouldn't exist in someone so young. Daddy's helping the pilots. I know, but aren't you worried? The girl tilts her head, considering the question with gravity beyond her years. Daddy flew jets in the war. Really fast ones. He said the sky tried to take him 3 times, and 3 times he said no. Zuri returns to her coloring. The sky doesn't scare my daddy. So it doesn't scare me either. Something cracks inside Regina's chest. The same crack that started when Marcus walked toward that cockpit. It spreads now, fractures running through walls she built over decades of proving herself, protecting herself, isolating herself from anything that might make her vulnerable. Your father? He was in combat? Mommy said he saved a lot of people. She said that's why God gave him to us. Because saving people is what he does. Regina thinks about the words she spoke earlier. The cruelty wrapped in casual dismissal. Daycare. Nobody. Economy class. She mocked a man who spent 12 years defending the country she built her wealth in. Her throat tightens. I'm sorry, she whispers. Zuri pauses her coloring. For what? For being unkind to your father. The girl considers this. Then she reaches out and places her small hand over Regina's manicured fingers. The touch is light, warm, innocent. It's okay. Daddy says hurt people hurt people. He says we should be gentle with them because we don't know what made them that way. The plane shudders violently. Oxygen masks drop from overhead compartments, swinging like yellow pendulums of panic. Passengers scream. The lights flicker once, twice, then stabilize. Regina's hand finds Zuri's and holds tight. The intercom crackles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Chin. We're beginning our final descent. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened and remain in the brace position. We have an experienced pilot assisting us in the cockpit, and we're confident we'll get through this together. The pause. Then another voice. Deeper. Calmer. A voice Regina recognizes. This is Captain Thibodeau. I want everyone to listen carefully. In about 6 minutes, we're going to touch down on a regional airstrip. The landing may be rough. It may be loud. But I promise you this, I have flown through worse, and I have never left anyone behind. Not in combat. Not in training. And not today. Hold on to each other. Trust the crew. And I'll see you all on the ground. The intercom clicks off. Zuri smiles. See? Daddy's got it. Regina grips the armrest with one hand and the child's fingers with the other. 5 minutes to landing. And for the first time in her life, Regina Okonkwo Price prays. The runway appears through the cockpit windshield like a gray ribbon stretched across the valley floor. 12,000 feet of concrete. No emergency vehicles. No fire crews. Just empty tarmac and the mountains standing witness. Gear down, Marcus commands. Kevin reaches for the hydraulic gear lever. Pulls. Nothing happens. It's not responding. The hydraulics are too low. Manual release. Now. Kevin dives beneath the center pedestal, finds the emergency lever. His hands shake as he yanks it backward. A grinding sound echoes through the fuselage. Metal against metal. Then 3 solid clunks. Gear is down and locked. Marcus exhales. 1 problem solved. 100 more waiting. Patricia, bring us in at 140 knots. Any faster and we won't be able to stop. Any slower and we'll drop out of the sky. 140. Copy. The altimeter unwinds. 3,000 feet. 2,000. 1,500. The valley walls rise on either side. Brown rock and patches of green scrub blur past the windows. The runway grows larger, more defined. Marcus can see the faded markings now. Old military designations painted over but still visible beneath the weathering. 1,000 feet. Looking good. Keep the nose up slightly. Let the ground come to you. Captain Chen's breathing steadies. Her hands move with new confidence. Marcus watches her find the rhythm, the same rhythm he found years ago when his instructor told him that landing isn't fighting the earth, it's dancing with it. 500 feet. Flaps to full. Kevin adjusts the flap lever. The aircraft pitches slightly, slowing further. 300 feet. The runway threshold passes beneath them. Gray concrete stretching toward the distant mountains. No room for error. No margin for mistakes. 100 feet. 50. 20. The wheels touch earth. The impact jolts through the fuselage like a thunderclap. Passengers scream. Overhead bins burst open. Luggage rains into the aisle. The aircraft bounces once, twice, then settles onto all 3 gear. Reverse thrust. Marcus shouts. Captain Chen pulls the thrust reversers. The engines roar in protest, fighting against forward momentum. The brakes engage, what's left of them, hydraulic fluid squeezing through damaged lines to slow the massive aircraft. The runway disappears beneath them. 2,000 feet gone. 4,000. 6,000. They're not slowing fast enough. We're running out of room, Kevin says, his voice cracking. Marcus sees the end of the runway approaching. Beyond it, a chain-link fence. Beyond that, open desert. Cut the engines. Now. Captain Chen pulls both throttles to idle. The engines die. Silence, sudden and absolute, fills the cockpit. The aircraft continues rolling. Slower now. Slower. 8,000 feet gone. 9,000. 10,000. The nose gear crosses the runway's painted threshold marking. 11,000 feet. The aircraft stops. 12 feet from the chain-link fence. 12 feet from disaster. For a long moment, nobody speaks. The only sound is the tick of cooling engines and the ragged breathing of 3 people who just cheated death. Then Captain Chen's head drops forward onto the yoke. "Oh my God," she whispers. "Oh my God." Kevin begins to laugh. The sound borders on hysteria, relief and terror mixing into something uncontainable. Marcus stands perfectly still. His hands tremble at his sides. The adrenaline recedes like a tide pulling back from shore, leaving exhaustion in its wake. "Ladies and gentlemen." His voice fills the cockpit, steady despite everything. "Welcome to Colorado. Please remain seated until the cabin crew indicates it's safe to move. Emergency services are on their way." He opens the cockpit door. The cabin erupts. Applause thunders through the aircraft. Passengers weep openly, hugging strangers, calling loved ones, thanking God and luck and anything else they can think to thank. But Marcus sees only one face. His daughter rises from seat 14B, purple crayon still clutched in her hand, and runs toward him. He catches her in his arms, holds her against his chest, breathes in the scent of her hair, and finally, allows himself to feel. The emergency exit slides open. Fresh mountain air floods the cabin, carrying the scent of sagebrush and distant pine. Passengers file toward the inflatable slides, some walking, some stumbling, all wearing the dazed expressions of people reborn. Marcus stands near the cockpit door, Zuri wrapped around his waist like she'll never let go. Flight attendants guide passengers with practiced efficiency, their training overriding the shock still visible in their eyes. Regina Okonkwo-Price doesn't move. She sits in seat 14A, watching the evacuation unfold around her. Her designer dress is wrinkled. Her perfect hair has fallen from its careful arrangement. Mascara traces dark rivers down her cheeks. She looks human, maybe for the first time in years. When the cabin finally empties, she rises. Her legs feel foreign beneath her, disconnected from the commands her brain sends. She walks toward Marcus slowly, each step heavier than the last. He watches her approach without expression. Zuri looks up at the woman who called her a distraction, who dismissed her father as worthless, who treated them both like inconveniences to be managed. "Ma'am." Marcus nods once. Regina stops 3 feet away. The distance feels enormous. A canyon carved by her own cruelty, now impossible to cross with simple words. "I." Her voice fails. She clears her throat. Tries again. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." "But I do." The words come out cracked, broken at the edges. "I was cruel to you. I judged you without knowing anything about you. I made assumptions based on nothing. On clothes and circumstances and my own arrogance." Marcus listens. His expression remains neutral. "You saved my life," Regina continues. "You saved everyone's life. And an hour ago, I was trying to have you move to economy class. I remember. How can you be so calm about this? How can you not hate me?" Marcus looks down at his daughter. Zuri meets his gaze with those ancient young eyes. "Daddy says hurt people," the girl says softly. Regina's breath catches. Marcus places a gentle hand on Zuri's shoulder. "My wife taught me something before she passed. She said holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. You judged me harshly. That's true. But I've been judged before. By people with far more power than you. What matters isn't what people think of you when they first see you. What matters is what they learn when they look closer." The words hang in the air between them. Regina's hand rises slowly. She extends it toward Marcus, palm open, offering the only thing she has left. An apology without words. A request for forgiveness she hasn't earned. A bridge across the canyon she created. Marcus looks at her hand for a long moment. Then he reaches out and shakes it firmly. "Take care of yourself, Ms. Okonkwo-Price. And maybe next time, give people a chance before you decide who they are." He releases her hand, lifts Zuri onto his hip, and walks toward the emergency exit without looking back. Regina watches him go. The man in the wrinkled blue shirt. The single father with the worn backpack. The fighter pilot who flew through war zones and landed crippled aircraft and never once raised his voice in his own defense. She has built companies. Closed billion-dollar deals. Commanded boardrooms full of powerful men. But standing in that empty cabin, watching Marcus Thibodeau carry his daughter toward safety, Regina Okonkwo-Price understands something she never learned in business school. True power doesn't announce itself. True strength doesn't need validation. True worth is measured in the lives you save, not the wealth you accumulate. She picks up Zuri's coloring book from seat 14B. The purple butterfly is finished. Beautiful. Perfect. The sun sets over the Colorado mountains, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Emergency vehicles finally arrive, their sirens wailing across the empty landscape. Paramedics check passengers for injuries. Local news crews set up cameras at the perimeter fence. Marcus sits on a concrete barrier at the runway's edge, Zuri asleep in his lap. Her small hand still clutches the purple crayon. Her breathing is deep, peaceful, untouched by the chaos that swirls around them. A paramedic approaches with a blanket. "Sir, you're the one who landed the plane?" "I helped. The captain says you saved everyone." She says without you, they'd have crashed into those mountains. Marcus pulls the blanket around Zuri's shoulders. "The captain did the hard work. I just talked her through it." The paramedic smiles. He's seen heroes before. Real ones. They always sound exactly like this. "Is there someone we can call for you? Family? Friends? We'll be fine. We just need to find a way to Los Angeles." "I think we can arrange that, sir. The airline is sending another aircraft. Should be here in a few hours." Marcus nods. Looks down at his sleeping daughter. "Daddy." Zuri stirs slightly. "Right here, baby." "Are we home yet?" "Almost. We just have to take another plane first." She burrows deeper into his chest. "I trust you." 3 words. Simple. Absolute. The greatest weight and the greatest honor a father can carry. A news reporter breaks through the security line, microphone extended, camera crew in tow. Sir, can we get a statement? The captain says you're a hero. She says you saved 112 lives today." Marcus looks at the reporter, looks at the camera, looks at the dozens of passengers now gathering behind the fence, watching him with gratitude etched across their faces. "I'm not a hero," he says quietly. "I'm a father. I did what any father would do to get back to his family. But sir, your military record is in the past. This is the present." He gestures toward Zuri. "This is what matters. This is all that matters." The reporter persists. "What about the woman in first class? Other passengers say she was rude to you before the emergency. Some are calling her out on social media. Any comment?" Marcus considers the question. Remembers Regina's tear-streaked face. Her trembling hand. Her broken apology. She's human. Like all of us. She made assumptions based on what she saw. When she learned more, she changed her mind. That's all any of us can do. See people. Really see them. And have the courage to admit when we're wrong. The reporter opens her mouth for another question, but Marcus stands. Gathers Zuri against his chest. Walks toward the terminal building without another word. Some stories don't need more. Some lessons speak for themselves. Regina watches from across the tarmac. She holds the coloring book against her chest. Tomorrow, she'll return to her corner office. Her quarterly reports. Her empire of numbers and negotiations. But tonight, something has shifted. A crack in the wall she built around her heart. A window where there used to be stone. She doesn't know what she'll do with it yet. But she knows it's there. And that's a start. The second aircraft arrives 3 hours later. Passengers board quietly, still processing the miracle of their survival. Marcus and Zuri find seats near the back. Economy class. Where they belong. Where they've always been comfortable. The flight to Los Angeles takes 2 hours. Zuri sleeps the entire way. Marcus watches the stars through the window, thinking about his wife, his daughter, his country, his life. He chose fatherhood over glory. Sacrifice over recognition. Love over legacy. And sitting in seat 34B, his daughter's head resting on his shoulder, Marcus Thibodeau knows he made the right choice. Some heroes wear uniforms and medals. Others wear wrinkled blue shirts and carry coloring books. The greatest ones do both. And that's where our story ends, but the lessons live on. True worth isn't measured by what you own or what you wear. It's measured by what you do when everything falls apart and everyone's watching. Did Regina's transformation surprise you? Have you ever misjudged someone only to discover they were extraordinary? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else who's struggling to see beyond the surface. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. We bring you stories like this every week. Stories that remind us what really matters. Stories that celebrate the quiet heroes among us. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Tag a friend. Send it to family. Because every view, every share, every comment helps spread the message that character always beats circumstance. Until next time, remember, the person sitting next to you on the bus, the train, the plane, they might just be the hero waiting for their moment. See you in the next story.